All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the October 13th edition of Black Professionals Month. So we are 13 days in of this celebration and convening of Black professional excellence. We are so happy that you're here with us today. We are convening and gathering to celebrate Black professional excellence, to connect and collaborate and build a trusted online community worldwide for Black professionals so that we can step up, stand out, and break through in the higher roles of leadership and generate sustained wealth. Okay, so now you know who started Black Professionals Month. You know that we are fired up and we are here to do something about it. And we believe that you're fired up because you're here with us. So we're really fired up today because we have America's foremost thought leader on Black success and wealth that we're going to hear from today. And you know, if you're serious about leadership, if you're serious about success, and you're serious about wealth, it all starts with a mindset. And I can't think of anybody better to help to expand and enlighten our thinking than Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. He's a tireless educator, best-selling author, and business school professor. Dr. Kimbrough is universally characterized as an authority on leadership, wealth, and success. As a lecturer and researcher in the field of management, entrepreneurship, and human potential, Dr. Kimbrough encourages his readers to look within to extract the keys that underlie all accomplishment. He received his BA degree from the University of Oklahoma and an MA and doctorate from Northwestern University, where he studied wealth and poverty among underdeveloped countries. With his coursework behind him, Dr. Kimbrough combed the country, interviewing scores of America's most notable achievers. Currently, Dr. Kimbrough teaches on the faculty at the Clark Atlanta University School of Business Administration. Dr. Kimbrough's highest honor occurred when the National Black MBA Association presented him with the 2005 H. Naylor Fitzhugh Award, emblematic as one of the top professors in the nation. As the author of Daily Motivations for American Success and the highly acclaimed What Makes the Great Great, Strategies for Extraordinary Achievement, and so much more. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough is also the author of, most recently, the leading Black book on Amazon, The Wealth Choice. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present and introduce Dr. Dennis P. Kimbrough. And the next words that you will hear and the sound will be coming from none other than Dr. Kimbrough.
Thank you very much, Jerome. You're so formal with these introductions, I just can't get over it. Well, let's take a deep dive and probably, arguably, one of the most important chapters in Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice. Let's talk about money. Now, I understand that my screen is going to be shared. Can the host disable? I need to share my screen. Can we do that?
Go ahead and start sharing. So while Dr. Kimbrough is looking at the sharing here, I wanted to share something with you, and Dennis is going to be a part of this going forward. So Dennis, just stop me at any point. I'll just kind of fill the space a little bit here. And there is a part of Black Professionals Month that is called the Global 100 Leading Black Professional. And we have had nominations from the public, and through our team, we've identified individuals that will be honored at the end of the month as the Black Professional Month leading, or Black 100 Leading Black Professionals. And there will be, obviously, guess what? 100 of them. So there will be in that groups that we're going to put together for a leadership and coaching program. So you've heard, I think almost everybody here has heard us talk about how Black Professionals Month is not going to end when October is over, that it's going to continue to go on. And that's exactly what's going to be happening. You're going to see the leading Black professionals go forth with a leadership and coaching program for 12 months that they're going to be going through and supported through the ICABA leadership program. We will put 3 senior leaders and one emerging leader for a group of 4 together. And then we'll be able to use those 4 people to provide leadership coaching and career coaching from the 3 senior leaders and to that 1 emerging leader, which we think is going to be a pretty powerful opportunity. In addition to that, and the part that I mentioned that Dennis is going to be helping with, those 12 months between October of 21 and October of 22, we will also be providing different programs where we're bringing together a lot of the great talent that we already have in our network, along with folks who are meeting through Black Professionals Month, And it's going to be a really great opportunity for us to enhance our own leadership and using our own, if you will, abilities to be able to do that with our talent, resources, and network that we have. And that's how we take Black Professionals Month and extend it and make it the after party on the ICABA World Community, and also be working with MDK Brand Management to being a part of all this as well. So I know Dennis is still looking, and
Yeah.
And so as he's doing it, is there anything that we can help you with, Dennis?
Yeah, he's asking. I just chatted private chat with Connie. Connie, he's all set from your end, right? And Hutch, you're
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Hold on, give me a second. I'm looking.
Okay.
Yeah, because Denise and Connie, there is some functionality that I normally would have that I don't have right now. And so I'm kind of wondering if this is happening with Dennis. Let's try to make Dennis the host.
Dennis host. Make Dennis host, Connie.
Okay.
It should work with co-host, but maybe
Dennis,
it's something.
we're going to make you the host, and we'll see. It might override whatever problem that we're having here with the, giving you the rights to do certain things, such as obviously sharing your screen, which should have worked. It's been working 13 days. So guys, just
Okay, let's try it now, Dennis.
Okay. Yeah, I can see right now, it should be on multiple, but yep, there you go.
we can never let the technology be smarter than the people. So we figured it out. All right, Dennis, is all yours.
There you go. Thank God. Well, in the late 1800s, Charles Dickens wrote that seminal book, A Tale of Two Cities. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times, and the same thing is applicable today. When Martin Luther King led the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955, and not only from 1955 until August 28, 1963, in that particular time period, there were no more than 5 Black millionaires in the United States, according, not me, according to an article that was in Time magazine in the early 1960s. Now, who were those 5 Black millionaires at the time? Well, number one, it was Charles Clinton Spalding, North Carolina Mutual Insurance Company. John Johnson, the Ebony magazine. T.M. Alexander, the great insurance magnate based in Atlanta, Georgia. S.B. Fuller, up in Chicago, Illinois, and down in Birmingham, Alabama, none other than Arthur G. Gaston. I was blessed over the course of my research and my academic career with all my books to interview 4 out of the 5. And Black professionals, you might say, man, that was fortuitous that they would live that long for me to walk into their office and ask them for the kingdom and the keys of wealth creation. So it was the best of times, and it certainly was the worst of times. Now, this is even more applicable too, and that resonates in my mind in terms of my research and studies. Why? Because 2 of these individuals I had an opportunity to interview, sit down, and talk to. One, the gentleman on the right, is none other than Reuben McDaniel. Reuben McDaniel in the 1990s, early 1990s, was the CEO and president of Jackson Securities. He was a money manager based in Atlanta, Georgia, and he had many affluent clients at the time. One was none other than Maynard Jackson. And we all know the gentleman on the left, that is none other than Usher Raymond III. The fact of the matter is, you may not know Usher's backflap story. He started singing when he was age 12, born in Dallas, Texas. His parents moved him to Chattanooga. When he was at age 12, his mother, Janetta Patton, and this is an interesting sidebar, she was kind enough and gracious enough to come speak in one of my classes to my students several years ago. And she recognized the talent that her son had. And she said, you've got a gift, and let's go ahead and monetize this gift. And they moved the family from Chattanooga to Atlanta, Georgia. Well, Usher made his debut in the early 1990s, between 1993 and 1994, with his opening album. He really hit his claim to fame at the end of that decade, and really in 2003, 2004, with his 3rd album. Now, how did these 2 individuals connect, Usher Raymond and Ruben McDaniel at Jackson Securities. Because Usher, with his first two introductory albums, blew through his cash. I mean, cars, clothes, homes, everything. He was burning cash, hand over fist. But when he hit the lodestar with that third album in 2004, something resonated in his mind that, hey, I don't want to be an old broke down singer singing in nightclubs for my fare for, to place food on the table and keep a roof over my head. I want to be able to hold on to some of my earnings. So he personally sought out one of the top money managers in the Southeast, and Ruben McDaniel got all types of rave reviews, and they connected. Usher sent him a letter. Ruben McDaniel acquiesced, and he said, sure, I would like to sit down and talk with you, but before we do, can you send me, not asking you for anything proprietary, but can you send me a proprietary financial statement? Usher complied, sent it to him, and if not, less than a month, several weeks, between several weeks and a month, they sat down and they formally met. And it was at that meeting when I interviewed Ruben McDaniel that he told me the following story. And when his mother spoke in my class, she added color to this also. When he was completing the paperwork to bring him on as a client to Jackson Securities, he gave him the paperwork and he gave him a pen and he said to him, Mr. Raymond, I'm so glad to meet you. Enjoy your music. You're certainly gifted, and I think that I can help. And he pulled out his financial statement and says, I was looking at your financial statement and I have some questions. I find it real interesting. And he pulled out the statement and he was flipping the pages one by one. And he said, oh man, that's an interesting purchase you had right there. And turned the page and he said, whoa, man, I've never seen one of my clients do that with his or her money. Turn the page again. Wow. That's pretty impressive, man. You really wanted to make a statement with that, and boom, and on and on and on and on. At the end of looking at his financial statement, Ruben McDaniel said to Usher, now we have some paperwork before I bring you on as a client that I want you to complete. Here's a pad, here's a pen. You can go over there and sit over there, and you can go ahead and complete this paperwork. And Usher sat down and he answered the questions. And by the time he got to the third page of the form, it finally hit home what he was completing. He put the pen down. He just ripped out the form, handed it back to Ruben McDaniel and said to him, this is an application for employment at McDonald's. Why in the world are you making me complete this form? And Ruben McDaniel looked Usher square in the eye and he said, because if you keep spending your money the same way that you have spent it in the past, that's where you will be working. Interesting story. Best of times and worst of times. Money is not power. What is money? Money is a tool. Money is a resource. Money is a warm house in the winter. Money is college education for your children. Money is food on the table. That's all it is. And arguably the worst thing that you can do with money is not respect money. One of the first slides that I show my students are the 10 different forms of wealth. And you won't be wealthy until you know every single form of wealth that you have acquired in your life that you may not even know. The first form of wealth is knowledge. And knowledge is not power until it's activated, until you recognize the power of knowledge. You're not going to attain wealth until you develop a wealthy consciousness. The second form of wealth are your work habits. The market pays superior rewards for superior performance. It is your work habits, your daily work habits. And you've got to find a way to scale your skill. You've got to find a way to monetize your skill set in every area. You may monetize it one way by, sharing your wear on Twitter or Instagram or through the internet, but there are 50 million other different forms in which you can monetize. And you have got to scale it in every single area. Multiple streams of income is number 3, money. Multiple streams of income. Yeah, so many folks that I've interviewed, man, you talk about multiple streams of income. Okay, so we got about 10 Black billionaires out there in the United States. And at last count, well, for my research with the Wealth Choice, there were less than 40,000 Black millionaires. So I know that number has slowly creeped up. But you talk about multiple streams of income, and one of the multiple streams of income that both millionaires, Black millionaires and Black billionaires use that my data shows is that the average Black millionaire has 3 real estate properties on the side. Well, that's a multiple stream of income. And the average Black billionaire, and I interviewed 4 out of the 10, well, they have 9 real estate properties on the side. Multiple streams of income. When you don't apply, when you don't have your shoulder to the wheel, when you aren't completely engaged, in your business at that particular time. Multiple streams of income. How many do you have coming in? Net present value. How many do you have coming in at any particular time of day? Contacts. Networking is a critical skill. It's not who you know, it's what you know about who you know. And the average individual in our society knows 270 other people. That's how many folks will show up to your funeral if the weather is clear. Do you engage with these individuals? Do you keep in contact with these individuals? And I'm not talking about followers on Twitter or Facebook, on Instagram, or the internet and the like. I'm talking about those individuals who you can engage, those individuals that you have a personal relationships with. Number 5 is creativity. Business is a talent show. And you will be wealthy to the tune that you can display your creative gifts and talents. Constantly display your creative gifts and talents. I told my students yesterday in class, if I can't pick you out from a million people, then you're doing something wrong. Each of us were born unique, and the opposite of success is not failure. The opposite of success is conformity. Don't conform to the wishes, the norms, and the moral race of others. Always, constantly push the envelope. Express your creative gifts and your creative skills. Persistence. Persistence. That's one of the 10 forms of wealth. And what is persistence? It's a level of belief that you have in yourself. I saw this first and forehand 3 different times. What are you looking at on the left? That's Greg Barranco, Barranco Automotive up here in Buckhead in Atlanta. Barranco Automotive. When Greg Barranco walks across that stage at Southern University, got his degree, got his sheepskin, the next day after he graduated in Baton Rouge, he applied for a job at Audubon Ford. Audubon Ford was the #1 car dealership in Baton Rouge, Louisiana during that time. Forget hiring Black sales reps. They didn't even want Black clients. Blacks couldn't even go into the showroom, Audubon Ford, during that time period. You wanted to buy a Ford from Audubon Ford car dealership, you had to wait out on the lot and wait for a sales rep to come, to serve you. Well, what did Greg Barranco do the day after he graduated? He had the nerve, he had the temerity, he had the audacity to walk into the dealership and ask for a job. Well, as you can imagine and surmise, he was quickly escorted off the premises. Did that stop him? No, he went back a second day. He went back a third day, a fourth day, a fifth day. He went back 30 days straight until the dealer himself finally acquiesced and gave him a 30-day trial. Within that 30 days, Greg Barranco sold more cars within that 30 days at last count. And Audubon Ford is still operating in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he still holds the record for most sales in 30 days. And what you may not know, interesting sidebar, he's doing the same thing, at his dealership up in Buckhead. 3 years ago, Warren Buffett, that's right, the man himself, $104 billion. Warren Buffett, supposedly gave Barranco an offer he couldn't refuse. He wanted to buy him out, and Barranco told Buffett no. Well, who are you looking at in the middle? You're looking at Michelle Hoskins, Hoskins Syrup. And what is so different and unique about Michelle Hoskins? We're talking about persistence. Look, damn it, we are talking about grit. How well you can hang on when others would give up. That is a form of wealth. And who knows it better than me? Well, Michelle Hoskins, I interviewed her based in Chicago, Illinois for 2 years, twice a month. She called Denny's, that's right, Denny's, the franchise, you know, Denny's with the breakfast and the diner and all this and everything. And she called Denny's trying to sell her soup to Denny's restaurant. Twice a month for 2 straight years. Well, Denny's finally gave up and brought her on. But when Walmart heard her story, they brought her in. They brought her in on vendor day. Every month they have a day for vendors and brought her in. Who is this Michelle Hoskins? We heard her story. And now she was the first, not only minority, but she was the first Black vendor that Walmart in Chicago ever hired. So you go to any Walmart in the Chicago area and you will see Michelle Hoskins, butter pecan syrup prominently displayed, on the shelves. And the last but not least, I shared this story before about Bob Johnson. And Bob Johnson, just like Michelle Hoskins, for 2 years straight, no matter where he was, always flew back to Chicago, O'Hare Airport, rented a car, drove to Oak Brook, Illinois, and sat in the lobby of McDonald's headquarters, hoping to find anybody coming out of the sales, marketing, or advertising department so he could pitch Black enterprise too. Persistence, your level of belief in yourself, confidence and charisma, belief and enthusiasm, confidence and charisma. Do you believe in yourself? And what is confidence? Confidence is not being cocky. Confidence is not being a know-it-all. Confidence is an inherent belief that you are equal to the task, that you have been created for the position that you occupy. How do the rich, how do the wealthy, how do the affluent walk down the street? They walk down with the head held high and they walk down with confidence. How do the poor, how do the indigent, how do the hopeless walk down the street with head downs and shoulders slumped? Change your energy, and we will talk about energy. Why? Because energy always leads to an emotion, and an emotion is a state that can be overcome. Choose the correct vocation, luck, and choose the correct vocation. You heard me about, talk about luck. And what is luck? There's one thing better than winning, and that's preparing to win. That is the hallmark of luck. That is the hallmark of luck, preparing to win. Because you can win 50 million different ways. You can win because today is your day. You can win because you're in the right place at the right time. You can win because somebody feels sorry for you. And we see that right now. I had a discussion with my college president, man. You got what? About 100 HBCUs, and all of them are receiving money hand over fist. Well, 90% of that money that receiving is George Floyd money. They don't want to be the last ones out there. These philanthropists, these white philanthropists don't want to be the last ones out there that failed to give to one of these HBCUs. So they're tripping over each other to go ahead and to give these institutions money. Well, I got a couple of questions. Question number one, where have you been? I mean, HBCUs have been on the map for 100 years. Where have you been with your philanthropic gifts? And number two, how long will this last? Well, you don't have to worry about how long this lasts if you prepared to win. Choosing the correct vocation. Choosing the correct vocation. Now, you heard me talk about this in the past, in a previous master class. And the one thing I want to say about choosing the correct vocation, before you sign on your name that's dotted, you got to find the hotbeds. That's good, bro. What do you mean by the hotbeds? Well, if you want to be a shortstop in Major League Baseball, I suggest that you either go to Venezuela or you go to the Dominican Republic. Those are the two areas that are hotbeds for shortstops in Major League Baseball. If you want to be a soccer player, go to South America. Go to Colombia, go to Bolivia. If you don't want to go to those particular countries, go to Germany. Those three countries, they produce all the soccer players. If you want to play in the NFL, you want a professional football player in the NFL, go to the southeastern part of the country, particularly go to Georgia. If you can't go to Georgia, go to Dallas, Texas. You want to be an NBA basketball player, go to LA. They produce more NBA basketball players than any sport on the nation. Suppose you want to win the spelling bee. Well, if you want to win the spelling bee, you got a hotbed of East Indians in Dallas, Texas. It's called the North-South Foundation. The North-South Foundation in Dallas, Texas produce more spelling bee winners than any other area in this country. And if you want to make a killing in the tech industry, go to Silicon Valley, go to Palo Alto, California. That is the quick and the short and the dirty way of choosing the correct vocation. But when you do choose the correct vocation, the one area that you can apply your skill and be the best authentic version of yourself, and you heard me say this before, you never have to worry about income and you never have to worry about opportunity because the marketplace will seek you out. Well, I listed these 9 particular areas to set up number 10, because number 10 to me is arguably the most important: energy. When you are energetic, when you have vitality, when you have a burst of energy, when you have your health and you are completely engaged. Why is energy important? Because it'll spill over into other areas of your life. And as Napoleon Hill said, no more effort is required for you to seek the top rung of the ladder, to seek affluence, to seek millionaireship, to seek financial independence. And what do we know about financial independence? Well, financial independence, usually upon first blush, starts at $250,000. Now, don't get me wrong, any amount of money can be spent, but $250,000, you can outrun your money mistakes. You can outrun your money mistakes at $250,000, $20,000 coming in every month. So there you are, 10 forms of wealth. Now, the short answer, and here we go, let's go back to these slides. So we just heard about the best of times and the worst of times. And why are the best of times and worst of times? Because what happened to Usher is really happening to Black America. All right, I don't know if you were on the Zoom call last week when Hutch said, and I was in complete agreement, Black America, we are the 16th wealthiest country on the face of the earth. More than $1.5 billion we add to the, $1.5 trillion that we add to the gross, not only to the GDP, but to the GNP every year. So what does that mean? Well, you got 195 countries throughout the globe. Of those 195, 165 are democratic countries, and we are number 16 on the pecking order. But I want to go back to what Hutch said, one of the founders of Black Professional Month, and he was spot on. We are at a point, best of times and worst of times, and you don't know how much wealth you have until you have a wealth consciousness, just like Usher didn't know. Well, we're in the same part, just like Dickens know, best of times, worst of times. We don't know the wealth that we have in our possession right now. We don't know. We are in a position where we need not ask anybody for anything. Where we need not ask anybody for anything. It is all Einstein came up with E=mc², and that was the theory for relativity. Let me give you the backflap story on the theory for relativity according to Einstein. You pick up a hot frying pan for 1 second, it feels like you held onto that hot frying pan for an hour. But if you are in the presence of a beautiful woman, or ladies, you're in the presence of a handsome man for for 1 hour, you feel like it was a second. That is relativity. Well, what does that have to do with Black America? Well, we don't know the power of our net worth. So here we are, and what is on the front page right now? Well, on the front page right now is, what John Gruden, his casual indiscretion talking about other groups. Here he is, former football coach of the Los Angeles Raiders, and he was using some remarks that were off color, speaking in terms of African Americans, speaking in terms of gay and lesbians, and speaking in terms of women. Now, what does that have to do with Black America? Why are we getting in a huff of over what this man said when the NFL is 70% Black? If you were ever going to hold or organize a Negro leagues in any sports, in any franchise, damn it, now is the time that you would want to do it. The NFL is 70% African American, and forget about that number. Look at the skilled positions. Yeah, we are 70%, of the NFL, but when you look at the skilled positions, if we are 99% of the skilled positions, we are 95% of the skilled positions. That's the NFL. You are damn near 75% to 80% of the NBA. Of the NBA. And you put those two franchises together, and if you were ever going to form your own league, now is the time to do it. And what is stopping you? You don't know your value. You don't know your value. And wealth will always escape you unless you know your value, unless you can see the second face. All right, where do we get the second face from? Go read the first 30 pages of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he uses this metaphor. The way we see the problem is the problem. And within the first 30 pages of his first opening introductory chapter, begin with the end in mind, he shows this particular image. Now, I don't care if you see the young maiden, or I don't care if you see the old woman. I don't care if you see the vase, or I don't care if you see the two individuals speaking. That's not the issue. The issue is you got to see the second face. You got to see both. In this particular environment, in terms of wealth creation, you've got to be able to see both. Why is that critically important? Because when you look at Uber, when you look at Airbnb, when you look at Waze, when you look at Pixar, when you look at Disney, when you look at Zipcar, they all saw the second face. They all saw the second face. I mean, what was Uber? Uber was just a thought. It was just an idea of a guy flying into San Francisco and didn't want to wait for a cab. And he said, there's got to be an easier way. And he said, he took a smartphone. He said, what if I took a smartphone and I gave the power to the rider, who's ever riding in the cab, and he could rate on a scale from 1 to 5, what type of experience he had in the back of this car. That would really give the power to anybody who was riding in a cab. And we won't even call it a cab, we'll call it ride sharing. And from there, it just expanded. And then you look at Waze. What did Waze see? Well, Waze saw both faces. See, Google Maps didn't see both faces, but Waze saw both faces. Google Maps and MapQuest, they said, what if, I could create an app and get you from point A to point B safely, would, you be so inclined to download this app on your cell phone and, and depending on how many apps and followers I had, I could go ahead and monetize that with the number of advertisers. Well, that's great. But Waze said, suppose I took Google Maps and suppose I took MapQuest and all I did was change a single algorithm. In other words, suppose I could see both faces. MapQuest and Google Maps only saw one face. They only saw one opportunity. Waze saw both faces and said, I'm going to change a single algorithm. And not only will I get the rider there from point A to point B, but I'll get them there from point A to point B the quickest. I will show and exhibit, and highlight any obstacles, any roadblocks along the way. Well, in today's economy, and in terms of wealth creation, let's talk about money. You got to see both faces. You've got to be able to see both faces. And what is wealth? Wealth is the ability to what you do, okay, how you do it, how well you do it, and how you can continue to do it in this particular environment. It's what you do, how well you can do, and the difficulty of replacing you. That is wealth creation. And I don't care what you do for a living, you got to be able to think of that formula. And that's why a surgeon makes more money than somebody who's sweeping up floors in an office place. Why? Because it took a long time for a surgeon to go to school and go to college, okay? Your ability to do what you do. Somebody who's sweeping up an office can be trained overnight how to sweep up that office. And the difficulty of replacing you. It would take a long time to replace a surgeon. It would take just a short period of time to, find somebody to clean up his office. I saw this first and forehand by an interview that I had with Roosevelt Peebles. Who in the world is Roosevelt Peebles? Well, he's a phase 4 plastic surgeon and his practice is in Nashville, Tennessee. Viewers, what in the world, in God's name, is a phase 4 plastic surgeon? A phase 4 plastic surgeon is a plastic surgeon if I'm walking down Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia, and for some unforsaken reason, I was hit by an 18-wheeler tractor trailer truck, and my body is splattered into a million pieces. Well, this phase 4 plastic surgeon could stitch me back together and no one would see a single stitch or scar. That's a phase 4 plastic surgeon. All right, in these 50 and the 48 contiguous states and in the 50 states, you got what, less than 25 phase 4 plastic surgeons, and you only got 3 or 4 that are African American. And I had a great interview with Roosevelt Peebles, like I said, in Nashville, Tennessee. And as you can imagine, his practice is all referral. All he does is clean up mistakes that other plastic surgeons have made. And I asked him, what's the most difficult aspect of your job, of your profession? And he said, and he was really talking about seeing both faces, because women would come into his office and he would look at him and he said, my God, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, that's what was going through his mind. He would never say that to his client, but they would have a slight blemish and just a slight scar that they had to point out that they wanted removed. In other words, he had to see the second face. Well, for the after time, what we're really talking about is focus. And I learned this first and forehand, a couple of interviews that I had with Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey shared with me that he got the dream to be on TV when he was 9 years old in the 4th grade. And it was career day in his class. And every student in his class had to stand in the front of the class and announce what they were going to be when they grew up. And one by one, his little 4th grade teacher, marched the student up to the front of the class, and little Johnny stepped up. Johnny said, I'm gonna be a fireman, and little Jane came up and she said she was gonna be a nurse. Now here comes little Stevie. Stevie, what are you gonna be when you grow up? He says, I'm gonna be on TV. And his teacher said, no, Steve, tell your students what you're really gonna be. No, I really am. I'm gonna be on TV. You're gonna see me on TV. And then by that time, his teacher was fairly incensed. Said, Steve, this is a serious matter. This is a serious exercise that we're doing. I'm not going to hear about this nonsense about you going to be on TV. I'm going to give you one last chance. Tell your classmates what you're going to do, what you're going to be when you grow up. And almost with tears welling up in his eyes, he said, I really am. I'm going to be on TV. Well, that was on a Friday in class. And his teacher said, Steve, I want you to go home over the weekend. I want you to tell your parents what you did in this class. And Monday, when class comes around Monday, you're going to be the first student that I call on. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about you being on TV. Well, Steve Harvey went home. And when he got home around 4 o'clock that afternoon, he told his mother his experience in that classroom that particular day. And what did his mother do? His mother sent him to his bedroom. And she wasn't punishing him. His mother had the presence of mind to send her little 9-year-old son to his bedroom and gave him a journal. And that was the first time in his life that Steve Harvey ever journaled. Do you journal? Here you are. Here you are in my master class, and there is my journal. I always journal. It was the first time that he journaled. On page 1 in that journal, he wrote, "I will be on TV." And his mother gave him the instructions for using his journal. "Steve, I want you to write in this journal all the time, and I want you to review your dreams, your vision, and I want you to focus every single day on your #1 dream." Well, less than 15 years later, Steve Harvey, as you know, hit his dream and hit his lodestar. Well, as I wrap up in terms of time, these are the 9 disciplines of Black millionaires, and we're really talking about money. Don't have time to go through all 9 of them, but just hit on the creative ones. We all know about passion, and it's not about passion, it's adding your value. It's adding your value. And I really want to go into, the DNA of what money is. I don't want to spend my time going to 9 disciplines. This you can also find in the wealth choice. But if you took wealth, if you took money and you took resource, and that's all money is, it is a tool. It is a tool. It is a measure of exchange. And the worst thing that you can do with money, instead of baking the pie as large as you want to buy, to bake it, the worst thing you can do with money is to focus on somebody else's money and, just focus on the equal distribution of the money. You can't do that. You can bake the pie as big as you want. Don't care about what others are doing. You bake the pie as large as you want. So what will money do? Money will change. It won't change you, but it will reveal who you are. And if you're, if you're a nice person and you're philanthropic in your gifts and you're gracious in your giving, once you have, once you fall into abundance, once you fall into affluence, then money will make you even a bigger giver. I mean, if you're a knucklehead and you're a jerk when it comes to your money, once you come into more wealth and more prosperity influence, you'll be a bigger jerk. Number 2, never spend money before you earn it. That's the worst thing you can do. Why? You're forsaking today for tomorrow. You're sacrificing your future. Be a money magnet. Don't chase money. When you know your dream and you know your vision, talking about Steve Harvey and talking about Michelle Hoskins, when you become a money magnet, money will chase you. Money will chase you when you are clear, in terms of what you really want to do and in terms of your gifts. Never be a slave to money. And the quickest way you're going to be a slave to money is what W.B. Du Bois said years ago. The man or woman who won't control his or her finances won't control anything else. And if you're a slave to money when you are in debt. When you are in debt, if I found anything regarding these Black millionaires and billionaires that I interviewed, they don't want to be in debt. They avoid debt at all costs. In terms of the credit card debt, less than $2,500, including their debt outside of the mortgage on their house, less than $10,000. That tells you something right there. They avoid debt at all costs. Money won't grow on trees unless you plant the seeds. Begin to plant the seeds now. Begin to plant the seeds now. In terms of your vision for your future, in terms of your focus, in terms of every area of your life. Dr. Kimber, what in the world are you saying? I'm saying leave the credit cards at home. When you travel, when you go out, only take money. You go as far as your money will take you. Leave the credit cards at home. And that's a habit that I have had, man. I mean, since I've taken over the family finances in my house, I never use credit cards. I go as far as my money will take me. If you see me pulling out a credit card, and if I pull out a credit card, arguably have to be American Express. Why? Because I know I got to pay it back at the end of the month. But if you see me pull out a credit card, pull out your cell phone and take a picture of that. That's going to make the cover of Black Enterprise magazine. I go as far as my cash will take me. Okay, invest your time before investing your money. Invest your time before investing your money. And as I said before, money always goes where it's invited and remains there when it is where it's welcome. And you got to think in your mind, say it over and over again to yourself. Money, prosperity, and influence, okay, it is invited and welcome here. And then last but not least, as I said before, energy. Energy. When you are engaged and you are energetic, all right, if you had to measure your energy right now in every area of your life, what would you give yourself? Would you give yourself a 10? I would give myself a 10 right now, because prior to this master class, you know, I walked my miles. So let me get my miles in right now. I wanted to come here completely empty. I haven't eaten a thing all day. All I've done, you know, just drinking, you know, liter bottles of water. That's all I'm doing, because I wanted to be energetic. I wanted to be at a 10. I don't want to be dragged down digesting food coming before this master class. I wanted to be completely engaged. I wanted to be, you know, I want my vitality spilling over, because when you are completely energetic, when you are in that state, it'll be apparent in every area of your life. So there you are. Again, fastest 45 minutes of my life. Let's open this up for Q&A. Again, Denise, I love you so much, girl. Jerome, I love you, man, for pulling this together, for giving me an audience to pour into individuals. And you don't know. I mean, there's individuals out there I can't tap and I can't reach, but I might hit a home run with somebody on this Zoom call, and you don't know how far this message will go. So Denise and Jerome, doing what you always do best, and you are changing and impacting lives. Let's go to the Q&A.
All right. Well, guys, we've got about 5 minutes. So actually about 4 minutes, because we've got our next one's coming up for 6 o'clock with Keith Mouse. But I see Lynetta Boyd has her hand up. And Dennis, if you could stop sharing, and we'll go back to the regular screen. And then Lynetta, go ahead. What's your question?
I just wanted to know, is a copy of your presentation slides available to the attendees?
What you'll be able to do, Lynetta, as soon as I was going to answer 2 questions. Let me answer the first one. Yes, they will be available in terms of being able to see them on the video. We don't ask our speakers to provide their slides, because many times in these cases, this is intellectual property. And so this is something that they use to present with, but we don't ask them to give it so other folks would have it, but you would have access to it when you see the video.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Dr. Kimbrio, thank you for the amazing presentation. I'm on fire. I'm on the edge of my seats. I was ready to just jump up and down and start shouting. I travel a lot throughout the United States. The African-American community is on ICU. How do we get men and women within our community to create an ecosystem that will allow us all to work together to rebuild our communities one block at a time? We're in Selma, Alabama, where we're rebuilding that city as African-American developers and builders. And we need the support of the community to say, hey, we're going to invest in what you guys are doing, so that Selma, Alabama can become the blueprint for all other cities that are predominantly African-American that are on ICU. So how do we bring us together to where we're not just creating silos and working individually?
Yeah, that's a good question. And to me, it begins and starts with the Black church. And why the Black church? Right now, you have anywhere between 72,000 and 75,000 Black churches throughout the hinterland here in the United States. Those 72,000 on a weekly basis, you know, galvanized, collective, $10 to $12 million in tithes and offerings. But forget the money right now. Why is the Black church critical? Because that is the only platform, that is the only forum for a 20 to 30 minute period one day a week on a Sunday, listening to a sermon. You'll have a Black woman who has advanced degrees, got her finances in order, sitting in a pew with another Black woman who is the breadwinner of her house, 3 or 4 kids, less than college education, less than high school education, seated together for 20 to 30 minutes. That's the only place in this country where that will happen. What has got to transpire at that particular moment? Got to pass the baton. Got to meet, got to engage, got to develop, got to say, hey, man, girl, listen, I know you're having trouble, blah, blah. Here's my card, call me. You know, I think we can go ahead and connect. I think I can do something for you. Now, you might say that's picayune. You might think that is slight, blah, 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 but that's grassroots. Everybody's got to start someplace, and that is the someplace. Now, we can have other forums and we can have other networking, you know, opportunities, from the Urban League Young Professionals to Black professionals to this organization, that organization. But to say it, it's got to begin at the grassroots level. At the grassroots level. All right, so you got 34 million African Americans in the United States. And right now, you've got 35% of our kids right now engaged in college. I did not say college graduate. I said these are kids, 35% that walked on campus and walked off. All right, didn't get the degree. So what percent of Blacks right now? Okay, less than 1 out of 5. And you compare that to white America, and they're in the 30s and 40s. There is no way in the world we can catch up that fast. So we need another mode. We need another, form of entry to go ahead and to, get the, pop this bubble. And that is going to occur at the Black church. Help that pastor understand what he or she has got their hands on.
Much love, Dennis. We've got to run. I was just going to tell Connie, and maybe she did what I think she did. She ran over to the other event to get that going. There's never get enough of you, Dennis. So that's the way it goes. So come back next week the same time to get some more, guys. And
I will certainly be here.
And bring somebody with you. So Sam, you were saying about how do you start something? I'll tell you a good way to start something. You bring 20 people back with you next week to hear Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. You change their thinking and you will change the results. That's where it starts. It starts with an idea. It starts with people coming together, changing their thinking about what's possible. And that's what Dennis is doing here, is expanding the possibilities of our minds so that we can have all of the possibilities of abundance that we can possibly think of. Guys, see you next week or see you tomorrow, but we got to run. Take care. Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Thank you, Hud.
All right, thank you.